you were born in North Carolina.
Yep.
And as a kid, when you were younger, you had migraine headaches.
Well, I mean, no. So when I was 2 years old, my family moved to San Diego. My dad was in the Navy.
He turned a family pawn shop in Las Vegas into one of the most famous reality shows in the world. But behind the fame, fortune, and deals that made him a household name, Rick Harrison's story is far more complicated. From personal tragedy and family betrayals to shocking lawsuits, the truth about the face of isn't what most fans expect. Since its debut in 2009, Pawn Stars has become one of the most watched reality shows on television. Millions tuned in to see rare artifacts, surprising deals, and, of course, the colorful cast at the gold and silver pawn shop. At the center of it all was Rick Harrison, the sharp-witted negotiator, the middleman, who knew how to buy low, sell high, and always keep viewers entertained. But while the show made Rick a global celebrity and multimillionaire, his life off-screen has been filled with challenges. Failed marriages, bitter family disputes, the devastating loss of his father, and ongoing controversies have all left their mark. So, what really happened to Rick Harrison? To understand, we need to go back long before Pawn Stars ever hit the screen. Rick Harrison was born in 1965 in North Carolina, but his story really begins in Las Vegas. As a child, he was diagnosed with epilepsy, forcing him to spend long stretches of time at home. During that time, he developed a passion for reading, especially about history, and a knack for making deals. By his teens, Rick was already hustling. He started by selling knockoff Gucci bags and earned thousands before most kids his age even had a part-time job. His father, Richard "Old Man" Harrison, eventually opened the gold and silver pawn shop in 1989, and Rick worked alongside him, learning the ins and outs of the pawn business. For years, the shop was just another Las Vegas pawn store. But Rick had bigger ambitions. He pitched the idea of a reality show for years, finally landing a deal with the History Channel. In 2009, Pawn Stars was born, and almost overnight, Rick Harrison became a TV star. The shop turned into a tourist attraction, and Rick became the face of a franchise that was making millions. But with success came personal sacrifices. Could Rick balance being a businessman, a celebrity, and a family man all at once? With Pawn Stars a massive success, Rick Harrison's life changed forever. The once struggling pawn shop now drew thousands of visitors daily, and the show made him a multi-millionaire. But fame also brought tension inside the family. Rick worked alongside his father, the Old Man, his son Corey, and family friend Austin Chumlee Russell. While the dynamic worked on screen, off-screen things weren't always so smooth. Corey often clashed with his dad over business decisions, frustrated that Rick sometimes prioritized TV fame over the traditional pawn shop values. At the same time, Rick's growing wealth created new challenges in his personal life. He went through multiple divorces, each one chipping away at his private happiness, even as his public image soared. The man who could out-negotiate anyone on the show couldn't always find the same balance in his relationships. And then, in 2018, tragedy struck when Rick lost the man who had been his foundation, his father, Richard "Old Man" Harrison. His passing didn't just devastate Rick emotionally. It triggered a series of family battles that exposed cracks no one expected. But what exactly happened after the old man's death that left Rick facing betrayal from his own blood? Richard "Old Man" Harrison wasn't just Rick's father. He was the backbone of the gold and silver pawn shop and the soul of Pawn Stars. Known for his dry humor, no-nonsense attitude, and old-school negotiating style, the Old Man quickly became a fan favorite. He was the kind of presence that balanced Rick's sharp business instincts with a dose of traditional wisdom. But in 2018, tragedy struck. The Old Man passed away at the age of 77 after a long battle with Parkinson's disease. For Rick, it was a devastating loss. Not only had he lost his father, but also his mentor, his business partner, and the man who helped build the empire they now stood on. Rick spoke publicly about the pain, describing his father as his hero and the person who taught him the values that guided his entire life. Fans mourned with him, flooding the shop with condolences and tributes. But while the world saw a grieving son, behind the scenes, a storm was brewing. When the details of the old man's will were revealed, they shocked not only fans, but also Rick's own family. Why would the old man's passing spark one of the most bitter disputes in the Harrison family's history? After the old man's death, his will became the center of controversy. To the surprise of many, he had deliberately cut one of his children, Rick's brother, Christopher, out of his inheritance. The old man left no ambiguity in the documents, stating clearly that it was intentional. For Rick, this decision placed him in the middle of a painful family battle. On one side, he respected his father's wishes. On the other, it deepened rifts with siblings who already felt excluded from the business empire Rick now controlled. The controversy didn't stop there. In 2022, Rick's mother, Joanne, filed a lawsuit against him, alleging that he had mishandled family assets and tried to seize control of her share of the business. She accused him of exploitation, painting a very different picture of the man fans saw on television. Rick, for his part, denied the allegations, claiming the lawsuit was unfounded and an unfortunate product of long-standing family disagreements. Still, the damage was done. The public now saw Rick not just as the savvy businessman from Pawn Stars, but as a man caught in the middle of painful and very public family strife. The lawsuits raised difficult questions. Was Rick simply carrying out his father's wishes, or was he manipulating the family legacy for his own gain? And how would these bitter disputes affect the empire the old man had helped create? On Pawn Stars, Rick Harrison came across as confident, quick-witted, and always in control. But off-screen, his personal life told a different story. Rick has been married 3 times, and each relationship has ended in heartbreak. His first marriage to Kim, the mother of his first 2 sons, Corey and Adam, ended in divorce. The pressures of raising a family while building a business in Las Vegas proved overwhelming. Corey would later join him at the pawn shop and on the show, while Adam chose a life away from the cameras, highlighting how differently the fame and fortune affected Rick's children. Rick's second marriage to Tracy lasted over 2 decades. Together, they raised Corey and Christopher, and Rick often credited her with helping him keep the family together during the early chaotic years of the shop. But fame changed everything. The constant spotlight, combined with the stresses of running a multi-million-dollar business, eventually wore down their relationship. In 2013, Rick married Deanna Burdett, a legal secretary. Fans often saw her accompanying him to red carpet events, and for a while, it seemed like Rick had finally found stability. But in 2020, he quietly filed for divorce, ending yet another chapter in his personal life. Through it all, Rick's personal struggles mirrored the ups and downs of his professional life. Success in business and television often came at the cost of stability at home. While he could negotiate million-dollar deals with ease, navigating relationships proved to be far more difficult. But Rick's family and marriages weren't the only personal challenges tied to Pawn Stars. Another major figure from the show, Chumlee, would pull Rick into a whirlwind of controversy that threatened the reputation of the entire brand. Austin Chumlee Russell was supposed to be the comic relief of Pawn Stars. Known for his goofy personality, quirky one-liners, and unexpected knowledge of obscure collectibles, Chumlee became a fan favorite. For many viewers, his friendship with Corey and Rick added warmth and humor to the show's business-focused core. But in 2016, Chumlee's life spiraled into scandal. He was arrested after a raid on his Las Vegas home uncovered drugs, weapons, and evidence tied to other serious allegations. The news shocked fans and cast members alike. Suddenly, the lovable clown of Pawn Stars was front-page news for all the wrong reasons. For Rick, the scandal was more than personal disappointment. It was a business crisis. The Harrison family had built their brand on being trustworthy experts in a world full of shady deals. Now, one of their most visible cast members was associated with headlines about drugs and crime. Rick stood by Chumlee during the legal process, emphasizing that everyone deserves a second chance. Chumlee eventually took a plea deal, avoiding prison time but leaving his reputation tarnished. The scandal tested Rick's leadership. Could Pawn Stars survive such a blow to its family-friendly image? Rick's decision to keep Chumlee on the show after his legal troubles was controversial, but ultimately showed his loyalty. Fans were divided. Some saw it as forgiveness, others as a desperate move to protect ratings. Regardless, the Chumlee controversy cemented one truth. Rick Harrison's world was never just about buying and selling. It was about managing people, protecting reputations, and carrying the weight of decisions that could make or break his empire. But Chumlee's scandal wasn't the only threat Rick faced. As the years went on, questions began to swirl about the future of Pawn Stars itself. Could the show, and Rick's central role in it, survive in a changing television landscape? When Pawn Stars first hit the airwaves in 2009, few could have predicted it would become one of the longest-running reality shows in television history. The format was simple: everyday people bringing in unique items, and Rick and his team negotiating deals that blended entertainment with history lessons. But as time went on, the TV landscape changed. Streaming platforms began to dominate, and reality shows faced new competition for viewers' attention. Many wondered whether Pawn Stars could survive in a world where audiences had endless options at their fingertips. Rick's response was to adapt. The show expanded beyond the walls of the gold and silver pawn shop. Specials like Pawn Stars Do America took the team on the road, connecting with fans in different cities and broadening the show's scope. This move not only refreshed the format, but also reminded audiences that the appeal of Pawn Stars wasn't just the shop. It was the personalities at the heart of it. Still, the pressures remained. Ratings have fluctuated, and the constant demand to keep the show fresh weighs heavily on Rick as the face of the franchise. At 58, Rick is no longer the young hustler who pitched his idea to the History Channel. He's older, more reflective, and more aware that Pawn Stars won't last forever. The question is, when the cameras finally stop rolling, what will Rick Harrison's life look like? Will he fade into retirement, or will he continue to reinvent himself the way he always has? No matter what the future holds, Rick Harrison's legacy is secure. He transformed a small pawn shop in Las Vegas into an empire that redefined reality television. Millions of people who had never stepped foot inside a pawn shop suddenly saw the world of buying, selling, and negotiating as fascinating entertainment. But his legacy isn't without controversy. The family lawsuits, the divorces, the scandals surrounding those closest to him, all of it paints a picture of a man who has lived under constant pressure, often at great personal cost. For all the wealth and fame, Rick's journey has been filled with heartbreak and betrayal. And yet, there's resilience in his story. Despite every setback, Rick continues to stand at the counter of the gold and silver pawn shop, greeting fans, making deals, and carrying on the tradition his father helped build. The old man's presence may be gone, but Rick sees it as his duty to keep the family business alive, not just for television, but as a lasting tribute. His legacy is also one of reinvention. From hustling knockoff purses as a teenager to becoming the star of an international TV hit, Rick has shown time and again that he knows how to adapt. That resilience may be his greatest achievement. Proof that even in the face of loss, betrayal, and controversy, he refuses to step back. So, what really happened to Rick Harrison? The answer is both inspiring and heartbreaking. He's a man who built an empire from scratch, turned his family business into a global brand, and became one of the most recognizable faces in reality television. But behind the fame, he's also faced devastating losses, bitter family feuds, failed marriages, and scandals that threatened to tarnish everything he worked for. At 58, Rick Harrison's story is far from over. But one thing is clear. His life is more than just rare coins and antique artifacts. It's a story of resilience, sacrifice, and the heavy cost of living under the spotlight. The next time you watch Pawn Stars, remember this. Every deal Rick makes on camera is backed by a lifetime of battles off it. The show may focus on treasures inside the pawn shop, but the real treasure and the real tragedy has always been the man behind the counter. So, what do you think? Has Rick Harrison's journey been defined more by his triumphs or his tragedies? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the untold stories of your favorite stars.